Welcome to the In My Opinion show. I am your host, Henry Hatter. This show is brought to you through flinttalkradio.com. And I'd like to say welcome to my guest, Aaron Groh. Aaron is a product of Genesee County. He was born in Montrose, Michigan, and educated locally. He is well versed in public policy issues. Today, our focus will be on uh, and our conversation will be the Republican Party and how it hopes to reestablish itself as relevant and successful. The In My Opinion show offers the same opportunities to other political parties so that they have equal access to this medium. Aaron, please tell us a little bit about yourself, your credentials, and share that with us. Who are you?
Glad to. First of all, thank you for having me here. Um, I'm a college student at University of Michigan Flint. I recently received my bachelor's in political science, and I'm going back to get my master's in public administration. I'm getting into campaign management. I've already managed a campaign or two in my day, and now I am helping spearhead a outreach movement for the urban community on behalf of the Republican Party.
The urban community.
Yes.
You mean the containment inside of the boundaries of the city of Flint?
Yeah, specifically.
Okay. Why are you interested in that segment of the community?
Because it's an important one. It's the heart of the county, and it is a segment that has been untouched by the party in a long time. And I was thinking that in order for us to continue to win, or to win at all, we have to reach out and open discussion with the people in that community.
Well, as you know, 46% of the Americans say they would vote for Barack Obama in 12. Can the Republican Party reestablish itself suitably over that time?
Oh, sure. There's plenty of time, and there's plenty of time to see how things unfold, how the Obama administration unfolds, how his policy unfolds. Um, One thing that we need to do is institute a two-pronged plan. One is inclusion, and one is solution. We need to establish a coalition, a grand coalition, the kind of coalition that was established under Reagan in '80 and Gingrich in '94. Under that coalition, there will be several different segments of the American, just all over the American frontier. Different groups, different socioeconomic classes, whatnot. And this is the only strategy that's ever won. This is how Barack Obama won. This is how we've won in the past, and this is how we will continue to win. And we have to reach out to different segments of the population that has been so far either untouched or has been kind of left behind. And so we have to create a new coalition behind our philosophy and behind new solutions, which is the second prong of the equation. And the solutions are those that are informed by the philosophy. You cannot win a race and you cannot convince people to vote for you if you just say, hey, I'm for low taxes, I'm for gun rights, I'm against or for abortion and whatnot. You have to present to them good, plausible solutions that's informed by that philosophy. Because anyways, anybody could run under a philosophy, but it takes a certain uh, political aficionado, if you will, under policy, to really mobilize people for real change.
Now, I noticed that you said that the Republicans, well, you didn't say the Republicans did, but the Republican platform has always been on those issues such as gun issues,
Right.
abortion, and small governments, and so on and so forth. What you're saying is that those kind of issues won't necessarily mobilize all people.
Oh, they can, but there has to be something more to it. There has to be a little bit more meat to it, I think. Uh,
Give us an example of the substance that you got to put
okay.
in there to pull this together.
Okay. One example is a Republican saying that he's for low taxes. That's great. Who isn't generally? But what sort of a tax program are you looking to initiate? What kind of taxes are you looking to cut? Perhaps you're willing to replace those taxes with a different kind of tax. It that is the sort of plan that will ultimately lead to more mobilization. It's the philosophy that'll bring people in, but what will really get a sort of rapport is the solutions.
Now, folks, I want you to notice that Aaron is a real pro. He uses words that resonate well with the public who understands public policy. Now, many of the public, those who are skeptics and cynics, will call everything politics. But for those who really believe in what they're doing, they call it public policy. Everybody should have a will to serve in public policy
Right.
because that's your job. That's their job to serve in public policy. Now, what Aaron has given us two words. He's given us the word inclusion and solution. Explain. I know you went through them, but explain them so that our people out there know exactly what you're saying when you say, particularly a solution.
Well, a solution is what I mean by solution is like I said, like I touched on actual policies, something real to get people to get their arms around. You can, like I said, you can have the greatest philosophy on earth, and I believe that we do, but you cannot really expect people to take you seriously unless you are willing to commit to something in a public policy way. To me, real change comes from public policy. Anyone can speak vaguely about generalities and as such, like I believe Obama did when he ran last year. But the things that really mobilized people in the Reagan Revolution and the Gingrich Revolution were real public policies, speaking about real, tangible change.
Now, what you're talking to an audience out there that's hearing a Republican close to the ears for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether they've ever heard people talk directly to them, and
Right.
I believe that you're talking to these people that's contained within the boundaries of the city of Flint and other small communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, all people.
Right.
But you're hoping it connects with the urban area. That's where your focus is right now, right?
Right. Like I said, the urban area is something that's been untouched by Republican outreach in a long time. It's been something that's been ceded to the Democrats, and that's not a winning strategy. For democracy's sake, we have to reach out to as many people within the populace as possible.
Okay. Now, according to a recent poll, 38% of Republicans feel an unfavorable view of the Republican Party. How then can you mobilize yourself through this process? Because the people who you're talking to are going to read the vibrations that you give off. You don't really believe what you're saying, they're not likely to bite it.
Right.
So how are you going to bring together these forces of disbelief in self by many Republicans, 30%, according to the poll, and bring the solution? And the solution is really, the way I looked at solution was when you melt things together and they flow well together. And how do you respond to that? How do you bring a party that's in this disbelief, a portion of the party in disbelief with itself, to convince urban people that they ought to vote for candidates in that party?
Well, first it goes inside. You have to mobilize people from within and get them excited again. Once again, you have to get in touch with the philosophy that brought them to the fold in the first place. And then that is when you really excite them with real change, put on paper, actual real change. And then it's all a matter of going out to places like the urban community, speaking with different groups and segments of the population that has either been ceded to the Democrats or have been ignored by both parties. And I think the best way to do that is just go straight to them and discuss with them. It's interesting. I've seen a poll recently in Gallup that said that about 20-25% of African Americans were Republican. That's a small margin, so that's about 1 out of 4, but still it's a start. And from that small start, we can begin to branch out and really begin to start a dialogue with that group and other groups.
I'm sure that there are many people out there listening to you, Aaron, that would like to make contact with you over time because after the election of Barack Obama, it gave the Republican Party a great opportunity
Right.
to change strategies, to have people look at it. Because as the Democrats continue to control power, over time they will self-destruct, just
Right.
like Republicans did. And there's an opportunity out there that will allow the Republican Party to come back. Now, in short, what is your prescription for as a roadmap back to dominance for the party? You might have said it already, but just kind of summarize it.
Like I said, it's a two-pronged attack. Inclusion and solution. You have to bring in other portions of the community and the populace into the party. You have to grow the party. You have to start a grand coalition amongst different ethnic groups, socioeconomic groups, what have you. And then the party will be big enough to be combative again, to be competitive.
Okay, how will the GOP maintain its voice, its message, its
Uh,
platform
right.
messages?
Oh, like I said, it has to get in touch with its beginning core philosophy, begin to germinate real public policy, and then it's a matter of going straight to the people, I believe. The media is fine, but people like to be able to touch and feel and see and hear candidates, public policy. It really brings them into the fold and into the discussion either way, whether they agree with it or whether they don't.
Okay, what perspective should the public give to, or Republicans give to the Bush administration?
Well, I think the Republicans, as far as the perspective of the Bush administration goes, it should be a lesson in what to do and what not to do. In foreign policy, we saw how Bush really tackled a new crisis, a new challenge of several generations to come in terrorism, and what the Middle East how it will affect us. Um, and he really took that problem on head on. It was a problem that was brewing and brewing for decades, but it really came to a dreadful climax on September 11th. And ever since then, he really saw the problem as it was, and then began to formulate real strategies on how to combat it, to promote peace, democracy, moderation, uh, capitalism, things of that sort. Now, what not to do was more on the domestic side. This is where he really dropped the ball because he failed to create real solutions to help real people most of the way through. I congratulate him on starting the debate on Social Security and insolvency. He really proved that you can touch the third rail of politics and not get burned. Even though it didn't go anywhere, it was still a good first step in that debate. But other than that, he really kind of dropped the ball in just kind of coasting through on the domestic front. I don't think he really paid much attention to the economic front too well. I think he could have done more on taxes to get people really motivated to really help their lives.
Do you think he spent too much time on foreign policy?
Uh, I think he spent a good amount of time on foreign policy. Like I said, he had the right focus in defending us. That's the number one duty of the federal government is to protect the nation and its borders and its inhabitants. That's fine. But he did, like I said, wane on domestic policy, creating real conservative solutions to help the populace.
How will history remember George Bush?
I think it will judge him better than most of us are judging him now. I think they will look at him kind of as a Harry Truman-esque figure, someone who took a lot of flack in the country and in the media, but still was able to defend America in a very dangerous time against a very dangerous enemy.
What is the proper perspective that the GOP should have for the Obama administration?
Well, I think this is I think this is a study in history. We as Republicans we're big on tradition and we're big on history, and we acknowledge our and everyone else's intellectual history for better or for worse. This is a recycling of the same tired foreign policies that not just foreign policies but domestic policies, policies in general that have led to ruin in other countries and in ours in the past. And this is a matter of us being a vocal but active minority and combating some of the policies of the Obama administration.
Well, if this has been kind of the legacy of the past, and all nations have followed that kind of decline, how do you combat it?
Well, the same way Ronald Reagan did, with optimism, with real solutions, like with inclusion, as I said. He created a grand coalition. He had actual solutions as far as tax goes, the economy goes, foreign policy, especially with the Cold War. He was the first one to declare that they were going to win the Cold War. He said, "We win, they lose," and that's the sort of thing that we're going to have to take on. It's going to have to be thoughtful, and it's going to be active in the way that it brings in other people. It reels them in so they can combat the Obama administration.
Well, if all nations looking back since Rome have failed to be able to overcome those gaps there, what is the likelihood that Americans could find themselves through demise or decline?
I'm very optimistic that America can pick itself up again. We are the most unique country in the history of the world. We thrive on competition and the competition of new ideas. We can combat these bad ideas with pretty much just, like I said, mobilizing people, educating people, and insinuating things that have worked in the past. History is the greatest teacher of the future. That's something that we Republicans believe. And as part of that intellectual history, we understand what has brought us to greatness and prominence before, and we can use that to bring us once again there.
Okay, how would you tell this story to African Americans who live in the city of Flint? That exact story. What would you tell them? How would you approach them? In what form would you do it?
Well, I believe person to person is ultimately the best way to bring people over to your side, face to face, brother to brother, American to American. Go right to their doorstep and inform them that these policies that most of them, a grand majority of them, have supported in some way, shape, or form, have been really bad for not only the African American community but the country in general. And that's something that involves inclusion, because you're creating a new debate, something that's been lacking in the African American community and in the urban community as a whole. Is democracy in some way has been kind of absent in urban communities, as you know. The Republicans have kind of ceded it, and African Americans themselves have kind of accepted the idea that, well, I'm African American, therefore I'm Democrat or liberal, and Republicans pick up on that as well. That same bad logic. It's like, well, they're African American, they must be Democrat or liberal, and we have to get past that. And it's interesting. When you discuss with African Americans the general philosophy of conservatism, low government, increased jobs, small taxes, family values, pro-life, they're on board. It's when you bring up labels like conservatism and the Republican Party is when they start to lean back a little bit.
Do you think that African Americans have been unfair to the Republican Party by ignoring them?
Well, not necessarily. I think it's a matter of the political parties themselves that are more to blame than anything. The Democrats have at times kind of race baited a little bit in saying and trying to convince the African American community that these Republicans, these are going to take every opportunity you have. They're going to leave you impoverished, and the Republicans have kind of, like I said, seeded that group, and left them behind. And so it's a matter of taking on new thinking, thinking past the 60s and into the 21st century. That's really going to bring a new vitality and a new democracy to the urban community. It's usually times in societies when they lose democracy that they begin to fall because they recycle the same ideas and the same people. And the same can be said for the city of Flint. The same can be said for Russia, who's losing democracy, the same people and the same policies. And like I said, the same thing goes for the city of Flint. They keep recycling the same people, the same tired, bad policies. And they really don't, and the Republicans, from my point of view, don't have really anyone to blame but themselves in that aspect because they, in effect, kind of forfeited that debate in that area.
Now, Aaron, you were born in the 80s, right?
Right,
Okay, so you're a new generation of Americans who have a different venue on life, right?
right,
You look at things differently.
absolutely.
And you want to see change, you want to see growth, you want to see the old boundaries pushed away and the new boundaries moved closer within our grasp. And what should the Genesee County Republican Party do in a heavily Democratic area to at least win one city council seat or one or another Genesee County commissioner seat? We
Well,
only have one elected position.
right.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I think what they have to do is what I said, and I know I keep repeating this over and over again like a broken
that's
record.
what we want to hear. Go ahead.
But it's all about inclusion. You have to go into these areas that the Republicans have forfeited over these years and start the debate there. We may not win next election in that area. We may not win in 012. We may not win in 025. But not only do we have a strategic obligation to reach out to this community, but we have a moral one as well. And I think that at this point in time, I think that we cannot take anybody for granted, especially when we're trying to grow our party to have a new rebirth, as you will, in this new age.
Well, the Republican Party at one time was the appeal of Black Americans,
Right,
and they voted for it until 1932.
right,
And there's still residual Republicans out there. There's always been 5 to 10% of them, always. So now with the election of Barack Obama, there's an excellent opportunity for people to begin looking at them through voices like yours, through new, refreshing voices with a new approach, a new attitude.
right.
And I think that young people are going to listen to you because they have learned that we all are in this together and we've got to learn to live together. Now, just summarizing, how do we broaden our appeal in Genesee County? Let's focus on Genesee County.
Right.
What should we do first? Should we start with a city council seat first, or should we go to both focus? No, a focus. Should we do the County Board of Commissioners or one of the department seats?
I think we should go to every seat from the bottom up. I think Republicans who have less experience should be running for school boards and for trustees. And I think those with more experience should go for higher positions. You have to have a grassroots effort, both in outreach and in political strategy. Therefore, you have to start from the bottom up. You have to be able to grow what you make.
Over time, now, we've got about 3 minutes left. What role has Genesee County GOP played in local politics? Have they been effective? Have they been there? Have they done enough to try to win? Have they had enough issues that were dear to the heart of the people who live here to sell themselves to that constituency?
Well, I think we have the issues. We definitely have economic issues. We definitely have a job loss issues. I believe last time I heard Flint was at 12 point something unemployment rate. It's probably higher than that by now. We have the issues, but I don't. But as of right now in the urban community, this is something completely new and something completely untouched. Like again, it's that mentality that well, there's a lot of minorities there. They don't like us. Uh, the Democrats told them things about us, and they're Democrat, and so it's not even worth competing for something that we're going to lose anyway. I think that's a formula for failure right there. And it's a real disservice to democracy as a whole, which is supposed to include everyone. And just like Flynn as an example of, like I said, as a loss of democracy, as a loss of the competition, new ideas that brings new success. We haven't done much in that regard, but I think we're starting to a little bit.
Well, Aaron, if I could kind of summarize what you've told the audience today, is that in order for Flint to reestablish itself and become dominant again, it has to have the support and collaborative efforts from African Americans. It will
Absolutely.
not grow without their inclusion.
Absolutely. They will not, the city of Flint will not grow unless African Americans grow.
And what else you have told us, and I hope that the audience is listening, is that we need a balanced public policy based on the views of Republicans with that of Democrats. We got to have at least that,
Right.
because we don't have that. We're way out of alignment with that. And if we're ever to become a dominant city again, it must be done through the efforts of all of the minorities who live here, the women, and everybody who is included as a segment of this society must play a major role. Now, it's time for the In My Opinion show to come to a close. But first, we want to thank our viewing audience. This is Henry Hatter, your host. Until next time, stay focused.